The Daytona 500 is over, and with it, the first of 6 Superspeedway races, and it sparked a debate already. Whether or not this needs major changes, if things are okay, or if we're just all overreacting. And today, I want to kind of go into it because I think there's some valid points on both sides, and I'd like to kind of flesh this out more. Real quick, before we jump fully into it, we will be live tonight on my channel for NWP at 8 p.m. Eastern Time with myself and co-host Danny B. Talks and Eric Estep. So be sure to join us. We'll talk all about this as well in more detail. So for my takes on all of this, I kind of closely align with what Junior said on his show in the fact that I think that people are a little bit overblowing this, but there is a serious problem that does need to be addressed. But yes, I do think people are overreacting to a degree. Superspeedways need fixing. It is a simple fact of NASCAR life right now because these races, like it or not, are the biggest races for the Cup Series and on down. Daytona and Talladega are some of the few tracks known outside of NASCAR circles, and Atlanta is quickly becoming one of these kind of tracks as well with the way the ratings have shown. But they are nowhere near as bad as people are saying they are compared to the absolute worst of the worst. This is not the 2000 package before the last Dega race. This is not the 2013 Daytona 500, but mobility in the pack is severely lacking. And it needs to be improved, and there's a lot in the past that we have seen when it comes to examples to show why and how this can make the racing better. For example, on the extreme side of things, the 2004 Daytona 500 has been going around social media for a while. In this, it's a duel between Tony Stewart and Dale Earnhardt Jr. Jr. managing to work his way by the 20 car on his own because he was able to drive the car different. Handling was a big deal at Daytona before the repave and is going to become more of a big deal in the coming years as this pavement gets older. 2007 as well with Kevin Harvick. A lot of people remember Harvick and Mark Martin side by side, but what you don't remember is Harvick having to mount a charge from within the pack to come up there and win that race. And it was one, the handling of his car being good enough to get up there, but two, also Mark Martin making a mistake. But in each of those, the drivers had control of their destiny to a degree in the draft. And those are Gen 4. I get it. A lot of people are going to say, well, that was 20 years ago. Give me something that I can talk about in the last 5 to 10 years, maybe even this decade. Okay, I got you. 2020, the Daytona 500. We all remember it for Ryan Newman going up into the catch fence. But what people forget is on the last lap, Denny Hamlin was the guy in the lead. And then the Ryans, Blaney and Newman, drafted their way past the 11. Hamlin got into the pack, again, into the draft behind them, and set himself up coming out of turn 4 to make a move depending on which way they went with the decisions they made. And for it, all three of them had the mobility to go up, take the lead, but also if losing it, take it back. Each of these finishes saw the eventual winner be able to form runs and navigate their own way forward. Yes, you need help, but if you're a good enough driver or have a good enough handling car, you can make it happen on your own. And mobility will also, somewhat in my opinion, mitigate the fuel saving issue. I mean, think about these 2 points here. If you don't save enough, you can at least come forward afterwards. Now, saving fuel is important because if you end up not saving enough, you're going to be probably stuck in the back while they save the next run. Or if you're too far back in the pack, mobility is just a non-starter. And then on top of that, some may be able to just go full bore on this thing and be in a different strategy altogether. Depending on how many seconds difference it takes to fill up the tanks, they might go from the beginning of the run full speed while the others go 170, and that extra difference might still put them ahead at the end of the day. And at that point, then it really doesn't make sense to be able to save fuel because one, yeah, those guys could move forward, but two, if you're able to go fast enough, move yourself to the front of the pack, well, everyone's going to be racing each other more. You might have fuel saving in the back of the pack, but you're not going to be having it throughout the entire pack. And don't get me wrong, I think the fuel mileage issues are ones that we just don't want to see. Listen, I love fuel mileage races for the most part. You take me to a Kansas race, and there's a bunch of guys that are 3 laps short and trying to save to the end, and they're running out of gas over the last 2 to 3 laps. I love that. I think that's actually really cool because it's a mystery box and it's the best team and driver combined winning it with strategy, speed, and driver talent. But I don't want to see that at Daytona, Atlanta, or Talladega. These are ones that, let's be honest, we come for more of the entertainment aspect. And it's boring watching a good portion of the race have guys going at 50% to 70% speed. Why would I want to watch that? If I wanted to watch cars go slow, relatively, I would go and watch my local interstate. Strategy is okay, but it can be extreme. And right now, they do 3x3 and it's nice. And maybe at Talladega to do 4x4, but it's really just eye candy almost at this point. It's similar to a video game where you make it look all nice and polished, but you just polished a turd. That's kind of what's going on here. And on the other end of it, there is the randomness aspect that fans don't like. And to a degree, I agree with you. There was a big talking point heading into Speed Weeks this year about non-elite drivers winning the Daytona 500 and how elite drivers don't win it and we don't really get legacies built up with it. Then William Byron goes out there and wins 2 in a row, but because of the randomness of it, people still aren't happy. We have the issue last year in 2024 where the caution light pretty much decided the race. And this year it was Byron getting lucky and avoiding a wreck and just being at the right place at the right time. For any intents and purpose, that could have just been Jimmy Johnson doing that, or Cody Ware, or Corey LaJoie, or whoever would have put themselves in position at that point. And I understand people not liking that. We want our biggest race to come down to being for the driver themselves. But I'm going to say there's a bright side and a little bit of pushback I have to a lot of this. On one side of it, I do think that there have been improvements. When they did race, guys like Joey Logano, Corey LaJoie, and others were able to move their way forward through the pack and compete for the win. Granted, you wouldn't want to be on that top line because only 2 lanes worked, and that is another huge problem that aero changes probably could make, and maybe also some different changes with the engine. But I don't think this is nearly anywhere as bad as 22 through 24 have been. I actually think that this was probably one of the better Superspeedway races at Daytona or Talladega. But Superspeedway racing, you have to remember, is always cyclical. You're going to have great packages and spans of years. Look at the early 2000s Gen 4 and 2019 to 2021 with the Gen 6. Those were amazing and fans almost universally loved them. Drivers didn't, but let's be honest, drivers are never going to be happy with Superspeedway racing unless they're really good at it. The majority of drivers, since they put plates on the cars, have hated this kind of racing. But you're also going to have spans where it's just not going to be that good. And that happens. And it's happening right now. I compare the racing we have now to an extreme version of what we had when NASCAR tried getting rid of the tandems in 2012. If you remember the 2012 Daytona 500, one of the things you don't remember from it is the fact that it was really just 2 lines and the bottom line was really dominant throughout the majority of the race. But because of great moments, you don't think much of it, which is kind of what's happening now with fans. But you have to remember as well with the 2 greats that I talked about, with the Gen 4, it took almost a decade to perfect to get to that level. And then with the Gen 6, it took 6 to 7 years to reach the point where we are now. At one point, the Gen 6 plate racing was just a leader going back and forth blocking, and it was up to them to block correctly. So if you got somebody like Dale Jr. or Joey Logano up there, the race was practically over. So I would say comparing this is probably another reason people don't like it. That Gen 6 package was awesome. I loved it, and I to this day think that it was the drivers more than anything, similar to what Denny Hamlin said, that were the issue, not the package. They were overly aggressive, and I think if drivers from 20 years ago had been in those cars, they'd still have those awesome runs, but not as many of the nasty, gnarly wrecks. I think, again, fans are kind of idealizing something they want, and unless it's perfection, they won't be happy. And I understand that. I think it's great for people to voice their concern as well, even if I disagree with some of it, because NASCAR will listen and make an effort. They've proven this before. So what solutions do you have? Let me know down in the comments below. While you're at it, leave a like on this video, share this video, and subscribe to this channel for more great and fun NASCAR content. Thank you so much to all my channel members for your continued support, and be sure to check it out tonight on NWP. Can't wait to see you there. Until then, have a good one.